flare, also sometimes called a fusee, is a type of pyrotechnic that produces a brilliant light or intense heat without an explosion. Flares are used for signaling, illumination, or defensive countermeasures in civilian and military applications. Flares may be ground pyrotechnics, projectile pyrotechnics, or parachute suspended to provide maximum illumination time over a large area. Projectile pyrotechnics may be dropped from aircraft, fired from rocket or artillery, or deployed by flare guns or handheld percussive tubes. History: the earliest recorded use of gunpowder for signaling purposes was the signal bomb used by the Song dynasty Chinese as the Mongol-led Yuan dynasty besieged Yanzhou in 1276. These soft-shelled bombs, timed to explode in mid-air, were used to send messages to a detachment of troops far in the distance. Another mention of the signal bomb appears in a text dating from 1293 requesting their collection from those still stored in Zhejiang. A signal gun appears in Korea by 1600. The WuivphU Thungchil or Illustrated Military Encyclopedia written in 1791 depicts a signal gun in an illustration. Chemistry: flares produce their light through the combustion of a pyrotechnic composition. The ingredients are varied, but often based on strontium nitrate, potassium nitrate, or potassium perchlorate and mixed with a fuel such as charcoal, sulfur, sawdust, aluminium, magnesium, or a suitable polymeric resin. Flares may be colored by the inclusion of pyrotechnic colorants. Calcium flares are used underwater to illuminate submerged objects. Non-perchlorate flares, many in-service colored signal flares and spectrally balanced decoy flares contain perchlorate oxidizers. Perchlorate, a type of salt in its solid form, dissolves and moves rapidly in groundwater and surface water. Even in low concentrations in drinking water supplies, perchlorate is known to inhibit the uptake of iodine by the thyroid gland. While there are currently no U.S. federal drinking water standards for perchlorate, some states have established public health goals, or action levels, and some are in the process of establishing state maximum contaminant levels. For example, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency have studied the impacts of perchlorate on the environment as well as drinking water. California has also issued guidance regarding perchlorate use. U.S. courts have taken action regarding the use of perchlorate in manufacturing pyrotechnic devices such as flares. For example, in 2003, a federal district court in California found that Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation and Liability Act applied because perchlorate is ignitable and therefore a characteristically hazardous waste. Civilian use. In the civilian world, flares are commonly used as signals, and may be ignited on the ground or fired as an aerial signal from a pistol-like flare gun, or launched from a self-contained tube. Flares are commonly found in marine survival kits. Maritime distress signal, red flares either sent as a rocket or held in the hand, are widely recognized as a maritime distress signal. Fusee. Another type of flare is the fusee, which burns for 10–60 minutes with a bright red light. Fuses are commonly used to indicate obstacles or advise caution on roadways at night. In this usage they are also called highway flares, road flares, or ground flares. They are commonly found in roadside emergency kits. Fuses are also known as railroad flares and are commonly used to perform hand signals in rail transport applications. Since they can be used only once, fuses nowadays are usually intended for emergency use. However, in the days before train radio communications, fuses were used to keep trains apart on unsignaled lines. A railroad fusee was timed to burn for 10 minutes and quantities were dropped behind a train to ensure a safe spacing. If a following train encountered a burning fusee, it was not to pass until the fusee burned out. Fuses made specifically for railroad use can be distinguished from highway fuses by a sharp steel spike at one end, used to embed the fusee upright in a wooden railroad tie. In forestry and firefighting, fuses are sometimes used in wildland fire suppression and in the ignition of controlled burns. They ignite at 191 AA degrees Celsius and burn as hot as 1600 AA degrees Celsius. They are especially effective in igniting burnouts or backburns in very dry conditions, but not so effective when fuel conditions are moist. Since controlled burns are often done during relatively high humidity levels, the drip touch is more effective and more often used. Fuses are also commonly carried by wildland firefighters for emergency use, to ignite and escape fire and surrounding fuels in case of being overrun by a fire if no other escape routes are available. Calcium phosphide is often used in naval flares, as in contact with water it liberates phosphine which self-ignites in contact with air. It is often used together with calcium carbide which releases acetylene. Flares and football, maritime flares and other pyrotechnics are often used by ultras at football and other sporting events to increase atmosphere, even though it is illegal to do so in most countries. Because of increased focus on the area, some fans resort to cutting off the safety handles of the flares in order to make them easier to smuggle into a football stadium, which just adds to the potential safety hazard of bringing fireworks to a crowded stand. Military use, illumination. In 1922, a landing flare was an aerial candle attached to a parachute and used for landing an airplane in the dark. The flare burned for less than 4 minutes and the candle power was about 40,000. Countermeasure. A special variety of flare is used in military aircraft as a defensive countermeasure against heat-seeking missiles. These flares are usually discharged individually or in salvos by the pilot or automatically by tail warning devices, and are accompanied by vigorous evasive maneuvering. Since they are intended to deceive infrared missiles, these flares burn at temperatures of thousands of degrees, incandescing in the visible spectrum as well. Soids are floating flares that are effective only in the terminal phase of missiles with infrared signature seeker heads. See also: flare gun, shell illumination, blue light, references. Further reading: Wallbank, Alistair. Can Anybody See Me? February, 72 Journal of the South Pacific Underwater Medicine Society 31, 116 119. Retrieved October 13, 2008 A.